Imagine for a moment that you receive something precious, something seemingly small, but with the potential to transform not only your life, but also that of everyone around you. What would you do with it? Would you keep it to yourself, multiply it, or would you neglect the gift, considering it insignificant? This is exactly the question at the heart of the parable of the 10 coins, a narrative that carries not only practical lessons about responsibility, but also a hidden code about spiritual multiplication. Jesus, the quintessential storyteller, used parables to convey profound truths, often hidden beneath simple language. The story of the 10 coins is one of these parables that, at first glance, seems to be about financial management and diligent work. However, upon delving deeper, we discover that it reveals layers of teachings that transcend the material and delve into the growth of the soul. The story tells of a man of noble birth who, before departing for a distant land where he would be crowned king, gives 10 gold coins to his servants. The instruction is clear: trade with them until I return. When he returns, the nobleman, now king, assesses how each servant used the gift. Some multiplied their coins, while others, fearing risk, hid them. For those who multiplied, he offers great rewards. For those who saved, there is reprimand and loss. Why does this narrative resonate so deeply? Because it's not just about gold or investments. It's a reflection of the universal human experience of receiving talents, gifts, or opportunities that carry the responsibility of being used and multiplied. But beyond that, it hides a spiritual secret: the power of internal multiplication, the expansion of our essence through actions aligned with our true nature. In this introduction, we are prompted to reflect: what are the coins we receive? They could be skills, knowledge, time, or even our life experiences. The central point is not what we receive, but what we do with it. The parable challenges us to abandon the scarcity mindset, where fear paralyzes, and adopt the abundance mindset, which trusts in growth and future harvest. The hook of this narrative is irresistible because it touches on something primal: the desire to fulfill our potential. When we hear about spiritual multiplication, we often imagine something mystical, distant. But the truth is that this process begins with simple steps, with each decision we make to act with faith and courage, instead of backing away from the unknown. And there is yet another fascinating dimension: the connection of this story with the universal law of cause and effect. What you sow, you reap. But the secret lies in sowing with intention and awareness, recognizing that growth is not just external, but a profound internal transformation. At this point, it's impossible not to wonder: what seeds are we planting today? Are we trading with our currencies, or allowing them to remain hidden in fear? The introduction to the mystery of the 10 coins provokes us to look inward and see what we often ignore: our own unlimited potential. This parable is an invitation to embark on a journey of self-discovery, growth, and action. And throughout this script, we will explore how this story can be a key to unlocking a future of spiritual expansion. To fully understand the depth of the parable of the 10 coins, it is essential to delve into the historical context in which it was told. After all, the stories that Jesus shared were not just spiritual abstractions. They were deeply connected to the cultural, political, and social environment of his time, creating a bridge between people's daily lives and universal truths. In the time of Jesus, the Mediterranean world was under the rule of the Roman Empire. It was a society marked by class divisions, economic inequality, and rigid power systems. Money was more than just a simple means of exchange. It was a symbol of status, influence, and responsibility. Jesus' listeners understood well the importance of managing resources wisely, as many lived in a reality where losing even a single coin could mean days without food. The central figure of the parable, a man of noble birth who leaves to be crowned king, would also have resonated with listeners of the time. During the Roman rule, it was common for local leaders to travel to Rome to receive official authority before returning to govern their lands. Herod, for example, had made a similar journey. This made the story seem familiar and immediately relevant, as if Jesus was speaking directly about the power and hierarchy systems that everyone knew. But why coins? This symbolic choice carries significant weight. The coin at the time held not only economic value, but also political. Each coin bore the image of the emperor, proclaiming his authority over all who used it. By using this symbol in his parable, Jesus was communicating something much deeper. The coins represent what we receive not only in the material world, but in the spiritual one. They are what we carry within ourselves, our talents, gifts, abilities, and opportunities. Another relevant detail in the historical context is the concept of stewardship. In Jewish tradition, the idea of being a steward, or administrator, was rooted in the relationship between man and God. Everything one owned was seen as coming from God, and therefore should be used to glorify Him. This explains the serious tone of the rebuke to the servant who hid his coin. He not only failed to generate something new, but also did not honor the purpose of his gift. The original listeners of the parable would also be familiar with the risk associated with investments and trade. During the first century, markets were volatile, and trade involved great uncertainties. Therefore, the decision to hide the coin may have seemed sensible at first glance. However, Jesus subverts this expectation, showing that the fear of risk is, in fact, an obstacle to faith and trust in the divine potential for multiplication. Furthermore, the political backdrop of the story can also provide insights. The parable mentions servants who reject the nobleman's authority, refusing to accept his rule. This often overlooked part suggests that the story is not just about personal investments, but also about loyalty and responsibility within a larger realm. For Jesus' listeners, this echoed the message that living under God's kingdom required action, commitment, and courage, even in the face of opposition. The historical context also illuminates the pedagogical purpose of Jesus. He knew that his audiences were made up of fishermen, farmers, merchants, and common workers. By telling a story about coins, work, and results, he was using images that were familiar and accessible. But at the same time, he elevated the conversation, connecting the everyday to deeper spirituality. With that in mind, we can begin to see the parable as more than just an isolated story. It is a reflection of the world in which it was told, and a mirror to our current world. The power of this narrative lies in its ability to transcend time, communicating truths that continue to resonate. The central message, that what we receive should be used and multiplied, remains as relevant today as it was in first-century Galilee. Now that we have a richer understanding of the scenario in which the parable was told, we are ready to unravel the symbols it contains. Each detail, from the coins to the king's return, holds a profound meaning that points to the heart of spiritual growth. The richness of the parable of the 10 coins lies in its symbolism, which transcends the surface of the story and takes us on a journey of discovery about spiritual life. Each element of the narrative is loaded with meaning, revealing hidden truths that point to our relationship with the divine, with the world, and with ourselves. Let's explore each of these symbols and uncover what they can teach us about spiritual multiplication. Let's start with the coins. They represent much more than material wealth. They symbolize the gifts we receive on our life journey. These gifts can be innate talents, developed skills, time, opportunities, or even challenging experiences. Each coin given to the servants is actually a metaphor for the potential that God deposits in each of us, hoping that we use it to bear fruit. The message is clear. We all receive something, and we are called to do something meaningful with it. The noble man who departs to be crowned king is another powerful symbol. He represents not only Christ himself, who ascends to the Father before returning as king, but also the spiritual dynamic of distancing and returning. Just as the servants needed to act during the Lord's absence, we too live in an interval between receiving gifts and the arrival of the moment to be accountable. This interval is the space where faith is tested, where spiritual growth occurs, and where our decisions shape our future. The servants in turn symbolize the different human responses to the divine call. Those who multiply their coins reflect the souls that, motivated by faith and courage, use their talents for the greater good, facing risks and trusting the process. Conversely, the servant who buries his coin illustrates the paralyzing power of fear, procrastination, and lack of vision. He acts as many of us do when, insecure about our abilities or fearing failure, we choose inaction, missing opportunities for growth. The noble's instruction, "Trade with them until I return," is a call to action. It reminds us that the spiritual life is not passive, but an active journey of learning, practice, and multiplication. Trading in this context implies engaging with the world, using our gifts and talents in a meaningful way, and trusting that the effort will yield results, even when the fruits are not immediately visible. Another significant symbol is the return of the king. It marks the moment of accountability, which can be interpreted as the end of a cycle, a moment of evaluation, or even the final judgment. For those who multiplied their coins, the return is a celebration and a reward. But for the servant who hid his coin, it is a moment of loss and confrontation with the consequences of his choices. This return also points to the inevitability of the harvest. What we do today shapes what we will reap tomorrow. The servants who reject the noble's rule represent those who resist divine authority or refuse to acknowledge the gifts they have received. They symbolize spiritual disconnection and detachment from the greater purpose. This part of the parable is a reminder that free will allows us both to accept and reject the divine call, but each choice carries its consequences. Finally, the rewards given to faithful servants are a powerful illustration of the spiritual principle of abundance. To the one who multiplied his coin tenfold, the responsibility over 10 cities was given. This teaches us that spiritual multiplication not only expands what we have, but also prepares us to receive even more. It is the acknowledgement that, by using well what has been entrusted to us, we become capable of handling greater blessings and responsibilities. The contrast between the servants' outcomes is a lesson about the importance of mindset. Those who acted with faith and courage were rewarded with exponential growth. On the other hand, the servant who acted out of fear and negligence lost even what he had. This dynamic reflects a universal law: what we cultivate grows, and what we neglect is lost. The parable, with its rich and multifaceted symbols, challenges us to reflect on how we are using our coins, not only in terms of external achievements, but also in our internal growth. Each symbol is an invitation to explore our choices, our faith, and our commitment to the greater purpose of our existence. Now that we've deciphered the symbols and their meanings, we can move on to the heart of the hidden message: the code of spiritual multiplication. At the heart of the parable of the 10 coins lies a hidden code that goes far beyond the words. It invites us to understand the spiritual dynamics of multiplication, a profound principle that governs not only material growth, but also the expansion of the soul. Deciphering this code means seeing how our actions in the present can unlock unlimited potential for internal and external transformation. The first element of this code is the idea of intentional action. The instruction, "Negotiate with them until I return," is not just a call to work, but guidance on how to live with purpose. The act of negotiating requires planning, courage, and above all, intention. On a spiritual level, this means using our gifts and talents with clear direction, trusting that our efforts will align with the divine flow of abundance. Spiritual multiplication does not happen by chance. It is the result of conscious decisions to invest time, energy, and resources into something that transcends the ego and benefits the collective. The second aspect is the principle of sowing and reaping. Jesus often used agricultural metaphors to explain spiritual truths, and the parable of the coins is no exception. Multiplying what we receive implies planting seeds of effort, dedication, and faith, even when there are no guarantees of immediate results. Just as a farmer trusts that the earth will respond to his labor, we are called to trust that our spiritual efforts will bear fruit in due time. There is also the concept of exponential growth. In the spiritual world, the laws that govern growth are different from those in the material world. A small act of kindness can trigger a wave of positive changes that impact many lives. Similarly, using a skill or gift to help others can open unexpected doors, both on the earthly and spiritual plane. This is the hidden power of multiplication. When we act with faith and purpose, the results surpass our initial expectations. Another component of this code is the expiration of fear. The servant who hid his coin acted out of fear of failure, fear of punishment, fear of the unknown. This fear paralyzed him, preventing him from experiencing the growth potential that the coin represented. Spiritually, fear is one of the biggest obstacles to multiplication. It leads us to hide our gifts, to avoid risks, and to settle for mediocrity. The multiplication code teaches us that faith is the antidote to fear. Acting in faith does not mean ignoring risks, but trusting that the process of spiritual growth is supported by something greater. Another crucial point is individual responsibility. The parable makes it clear that each servant received an equal amount of coins, but the way each chose to use them varied dramatically. This reflects the spiritual dynamic of free will. We all receive gifts, but it is up to each one to decide how to use them. Spiritual multiplication is not just a gift, it is a responsibility. Those who embrace this responsibility and act wisely are rewarded with greater opportunities, while those who avoid action face the consequences of stagnation. Furthermore, the hidden code highlights the interconnection between human effort and divine grace. The servants who multiplied their coins did not do so alone. Their ability to negotiate and prosper was strengthened by the larger system they were embedded in. On a spiritual level, this means that our efforts are amplified by the divine presence. When we act in alignment with spiritual principles, such as love, compassion, and generosity, our capacity for multiplication is magnified by grace, allowing us to accomplish more than we would be capable of on our own. Finally, there is the inner transformation. Spiritual multiplication is not limited to external results, such as wealth or success. It is above all a process of soul transformation. By using our gifts for the greater good, we become more complete and aligned versions of ourselves. The multiplication process requires us to overcome the ego, to develop humility, and to recognize the role of the divine in our lives. It is through this process that we achieve true spiritual growth. The code of spiritual multiplication, as presented in the parable, is a powerful combination of faith, action, responsibility, and transformation. It reminds us that each of us carries unlimited potential within ourselves, and that this potential can only be unleashed through conscious and courageous choices. Now that we have deciphered this code, it's time to explore how it manifests in our daily lives, connecting spirituality with practical and tangible action. The spiritual multiplication, as described in the parable of the 10 coins, is not an abstract concept reserved for moments of meditation or deep contemplation. On the contrary, it manifests itself in our daily routine, in simple actions that, when done with intention and purpose, carry the potential for transformation. But how can we identify and apply this principle in our everyday life? First, we need to recognize that each of us is a guardian of unique gifts. These gifts can take many forms: a skill for teaching, the talent of listening, the ability to organize, or even a contagious energy that inspires others. When we view our gifts as spiritual currencies, we begin to understand that everything we have and are is an opportunity for multiplication. Everyday life offers countless moments to use these talents. In conversations with friends, at work, or even in seemingly trivial interactions with strangers. For example, a person with communication skills can multiply their currency by sharing knowledge that inspires others to act. A teacher who teaches with passion not only conveys information, but also plants seeds of inspiration in the hearts of their students. Similarly, a healthcare professional who takes care of their patients with empathy not only performs their function, but also promotes healing at deep, often invisible levels. Another practical aspect of spiritual multiplication is time management. In the parable, the servants had a limited period to trade with the coins. This detail reminds us that time is one of the most precious resources we have. Each day we receive is a new coin given to us. How are we using the time that is given to us? Are we investing in personal growth, helping others, or wasting it on distractions that lead us nowhere? Spiritual multiplication also manifests in the way we treat the people around us. Small acts of kindness can have a surprisingly multiplying effect. A smile, a word of encouragement, or a gesture of generosity can touch someone's life in ways we never imagined. The impact of these actions often extends beyond our field of vision, creating waves of positivity that reach unexpected people and places. Furthermore, spiritual multiplication is reflected in the way we face challenges. Each obstacle we encounter is an opportunity to grow and strengthen our faith. When we choose to confront difficulties with courage and resilience, we not only multiply our inner strength, but also become an example for others. This courage becomes a spiritual currency that can inspire those around us to persevere in their own battles. Another crucial point is the connection between spiritual multiplication and gratitude. Recognizing and valuing the gifts we receive is the first step to using them effectively. Gratitude takes us out of the scarcity mindset, where we fear losing what we have, and puts us in the abundance mindset, where we believe there is always more to be discovered, shared, and created. The principle of multiplication also challenges us to step out of our comfort zone. Just like the servants in the parable had to negotiate to multiply their coins, we are called to take risks and explore new territories. This might mean learning a new skill, taking on greater responsibility, or even forgiving someone who has hurt us. Each of these actions requires faith and courage, but the resulting growth is the true reward. Another tangible example of spiritual multiplication in everyday life is the creation of meaningful communities. When we gather with other people who share similar values, we create an environment where each individual's gifts can collectively multiply. A support group, a work team, or even a family can become fertile ground for spiritual growth, as long as each member is willing to contribute and invest in multiplication. Finally, spiritual multiplication manifests itself in the way we view our failures. In the divine economy, nothing is wasted. Even mistakes and falls can be used as opportunities for learning and growth. When we choose to see our failures as seeds of wisdom, we transform losses into gains and find new ways to multiply what has been given to us. Thus, spiritual multiplication is a daily practice that reveals itself in how we use our gifts, manage our time, treat people, and face challenges. No matter where we are or what our circumstances may be, there is always an opportunity to multiply something in our lives. With this perspective, we begin to see each day as a new chance for growth. Now that we have explored how spiritual multiplication can be integrated into everyday life, we can move on to the challenges that arise in this process and the ways to overcome them. The path of spiritual multiplication is not without challenges. Just like in the parable of the 10 coins, the servants faced the risk of losing their coins when trading them. We too are confronted with internal and external obstacles as we seek to expand our gifts and talents. Understanding these challenges is essential to overcome them and continue advancing on our journey of spiritual growth. One of the first challenges is the fear of failure. This is the main obstacle for the servant who hid his coin. He was so afraid of making a mistake or being punished that he chose inaction. On a spiritual level, the fear of failure can manifest as doubt about our own potential or the ability to make a difference. Often, we hesitate to act because we think, "What if I can't do it?" Or, "What if what I do isn't enough?" The secret to overcoming this fear is faith. Faith allows us to trust in the process, even when the results are not immediately visible. Another major hurdle is procrastination. In a world full of distractions, it's easy to postpone using our talents, believing that we'll have time in the future. This mindset, however, underestimates the importance of the present moment. Spiritual multiplication requires action now. Each day we delay is an unused coin, a wasted gift. Overcoming procrastination begins with the discipline of valuing each moment and recognizing that time is a limited gift. The pressure of perfectionism is another challenge that can prevent us from multiplying our gifts. Often, we want everything to be perfect before we start. We want to have all the answers, ideal conditions, or a foolproof plan. But the truth is that spiritual growth occurs in imperfection. Just like a grain of wheat needs to be planted in rough and imperfect soil to grow, our gifts flourish in the real world, full of uncertainties and failures. Furthermore, there is the challenge of external opposition. Not everyone around us will understand or support our spiritual journey. The servant in the parable who hid his coin may have faced criticism or negative advice from others, fueling his inaction. In our lives, we may encounter resistance from family members, colleagues, or even society, which often values material success more than spiritual growth. To overcome this, it is necessary to cultivate a deep connection with our own essence, so that our actions are guided by our inner purpose and not by external expectations. Another significant obstacle is fatigue or discouragement. The journey of spiritual multiplication can be demanding, especially when the fruits of our effort take time to appear. Often, we invest energy into something and do not see immediate results, which can lead to discouragement. Here, patience and resilience play a vital role. Remembering the universal law that the harvest comes in due time can help us continue planting, even when the fields seem empty. Comparison is another enemy of spiritual growth. In the parable, it's possible to imagine one of the servants thinking, "Why did I receive only one coin, while others received more?" This mentality of comparison undermines gratitude and distracts us from what really matters, using what we have, not what we wish we had. Each person has a unique path and specific gifts. Spiritual multiplication is individual, and our progress should not be measured by that of others. The ego can also be a subtle yet powerful challenge. While some face the fear of taking action, others may be tempted to use their gifts to fuel vanity or pride. When we allow the ego to take control, our multiplication efforts can become egocentric, damaging the connection with the greater purpose. The antidote to the ego is humility, acknowledging that our gifts come from a divine source and that we are merely instruments to use them. Another obstacle is the lack of clarity of purpose. Many people struggle to understand how they can use their gifts or what the goal of their spiritual journey is. Without a clear vision, it's easy to waste energy or feel lost. The solution to this is introspection and connection with the divine, seeking guidance through meditation, prayer, or other spiritual practices. Finally, there is the challenge of the temptation to give up. When we face many barriers, we may ask ourselves if the effort is worth it. The servant who hid his coin may have thought that the work was not worth the risk. On our journey, we need to remember that the true reward is not just in the results, but in the growth that occurs as we persist. These challenges are a natural part of the spiritual journey, but they are not insurmountable. With courage, patience, and faith, each obstacle can become an opportunity for growth and learning. When we recognize that these challenges are part of the process of spiritual multiplication, we are able to face them with confidence, transforming our struggles into victo. When we look at the parable of the 10 coins, one message resounds with particular clarity: responsibility. Each servant received a coin, a symbol of trust, and this trust carries with it an undeniable weight: the duty to do something meaningful with what was given. Similarly, in spiritual life, we are called to take responsibility for our talents, our choices, and most importantly, for the way we impact the world around us. Spiritual responsibility is not an abstract concept, but a deeply practical truth. The money given to the servants represents what we receive from the divine: unique gifts, resources, time, and opportunities. And what we do with it determines not only our personal growth, but also the impact we will have on people's lives. It's as if each of us were a steward, someone entrusted with managing something valuable on behalf of a greater purpose. This responsibility begins with recognizing the value of what we receive. How often do we underestimate our talents or ignore the opportunities in front of us? The servant who hid his coin did not see its value, but those who multiplied their coins understood that, no matter how small it seemed, there was unlimited potential in that gift. This is a powerful lesson. It's not about the size of the gift, but how you use it. The value of the spiritual coin is not in itself, but in the action that emerges from it. Furthermore, spiritual responsibility involves constant and conscious action. Just like the servants who traded with their coins, we are called to act in the present time. Spiritual growth does not occur in inertia, but in movement. This means seeking practical ways to serve, create, teach, or inspire with what has been entrusted to us. Each choice we make, no matter how simple it may seem, is a demonstration of responsibility or negligence towards what we have received. Another crucial point is the commitment to the greater purpose. Assuming spiritual responsibility does not just mean using our gifts for our own benefit. On the contrary, it involves recognizing that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. Spiritual multiplication is, at its core, an act of service. When we use our talents to illuminate the path for others, we are multiplying love, wisdom, and hope in the world. This commitment connects us with the divine and aligns us with the natural flow of abundance. However, spiritual responsibility also requires self-discipline and vigilance. Often we are tempted to bury our coins out of fear, laziness, or lack of confidence. It takes continuous effort to maintain focus and resist the distractions that steer us away from our purpose. The discipline of acting daily with intention is what sets apart those who multiply their coins from those who hide them. Another important aspect of this responsibility is accountability. In the parable, the nobleman's return symbolizes the moment when we will be called to answer for what we have done with our talents. Spiritually, this invites us to reflect on our choices. Are we living in alignment with a greater purpose? Are we using our gifts wisely? These questions should not be a cause for fear, but opportunities to reassess our path and adjust our actions for the better. Spiritual responsibility also involves caring for the growth of others. Multiplying our coins is not just about individual growth, but about inspiring and uplifting those around us. When we take on the responsibility of sharing our skills, our time, or our knowledge, we help others discover their own spiritual coins. This creates a virtuous cycle of multiplication, where one person's growth benefits the entire community. Furthermore, this responsibility requires humility and gratitude. Acknowledging that our gifts come from a divine source protects us against pride and keeps us grounded. Gratitude reminds us that we are merely instruments for something greater and motivates us to act with generosity, not with greed or vanity. Those who act with spiritual responsibility understand that true success is not measured by material achievements, but by the positive impact we leave in the world. Finally, taking on spiritual responsibility challenges us to overcome our internal limitations. It's easy to fall into the trap of excuses. I'm not good enough, I don't have time, or I don't know where to start. However, the parable teaches us that even a coin can be multiplied when we use faith and courage. Overcoming our limitations and acting responsibly is one of the greatest acts of spiritual growth. Therefore, the importance of spiritual responsibility lies in recognizing that every choice matters. Each moment is an opportunity to multiply something, to serve, to grow, and to align with the divine purpose. When we take on this responsibility, we become true agents of transformation, both in our own lives and in the lives of others. The parable of the 10 coins is more than a story contextualized in the 1st century. It is a timeless lesson that spans generations and remains relevant in the modern world. As we explore its universal lessons, we see how its meaning resonates in the choices and challenges we face today. One of the first applicable lessons is the relevance of individual potential. In a world increasingly dominated by comparison and social media, it's easy to underestimate our talents when measured by others' standards. The parable reminds us that true value lies not in what others have or do, but in what we choose to do with what we have. Just like each servant received a coin to work with, we all have something unique to offer, regardless of how small it may seem. Another powerful lesson is the effective use of the resources we possess. In the modern world, many people are trapped in a scarcity mindset, believing they need more time, money, or skills before they start taking action. However, the parable teaches us that multiplication begins with what we already have in hand. Whether in our careers, relationships, or creative projects, the focus should be on making the most of what we already possess, instead of waiting for perfect circumstances. The parable also speaks to us about the power of an abundance mindset. In a world where the fear of loss often leads to inaction, we are challenged to adopt a vision of faith and courage. The servant who hid his coin represents those who allow fear to paralyze them, while those who multiplied their coins are examples of how trust in our own efforts, aligned with a greater purpose, can yield extraordinary results. This mindset is particularly important today, in an era of rapid changes and uncertainties. In the corporate world and economy, the parable highlights the importance of initiative and innovation. The servants who multiplied their coins did not wait for detailed instructions. They took the initiative to act. In the modern environment, this is a vital lesson for professionals and entrepreneurs. Progress and success require action, even if not all the details are clear. The ability to take calculated risks and seek creative solutions is an essential skill, especially in times of global competition. Another modern lesson is the ethics of collective responsibility. In a connected world, our actions have an impact that goes beyond ourselves. Multiplying our coins today means not only achieving individual success, but also contributing to the well-being of the community and the planet. In social initiatives, environmental actions, or even in conscious consumption, we can apply the idea that our talents and resources should be used in a way that benefits the collective. The parable also teaches us about the importance of continuous development. In a world that values quick results, the parable highlights the value of consistent effort and diligent work. The process of negotiation and multiplication requires patience and resilience, indispensable qualities to face modern challenges. This reminds us that true growth, whether spiritual, personal, or professional, does not happen overnight, but is the fruit of an ongoing commitment to improvement. Another universal teaching is the need for adaptation and flexibility. In today's dynamic scenario, the skills and gifts we possess need to be constantly adapted to changes. The servants who multiplied their coins likely faced risks and uncertainties, but trusted in their ability to adjust and find opportunities. In the modern world, this translates into learning new skills, exploring unknown territories, and embracing change as an opportunity, not as a threat. The lesson about responsibility and accountability is also extremely relevant. We live in an era where transparency is increasingly valued, whether in business, government, or personal relationships. Just as the king held his servants accountable, we are constantly called to answer for our actions. This encourages us to act with integrity, knowing that every choice has consequences, both positive and negative. On a spiritual level, the parable reminds us of the connection with the greater purpose. Amid the distractions of the modern world, it's easy to lose sight of the why of our actions. The story invites us to reflect on what truly matters and to align our decisions with a deeper purpose that transcends the material and the ephemeral. Finally, the parable is a powerful reminder that true success lies in the impact we leave behind. In today's society, where we are so often defined by external achievements, the spiritual message of the story is an invitation to redefine success. It's not just about accumulating wealth or recognition, but about multiplying what is eternal: love, wisdom, compassion, and hope. These universal lessons provide a practical and spiritual guide to navigating the complexities of the modern world, demonstrating how the ancient wisdom of the parable can illuminate our path today. Throughout our journey through the parable of the 10 coins, we have discovered that this simple story carries deep layers of meaning that resonate both in our spiritual lives and in our everyday realities. Now, as we conclude this reflection, it's time to gather all the pieces and leave a message that inspires action, transformation, and connection with a greater purpose. The parable teaches us that each of us carries a divine responsibility to use the gifts we have received to multiply not only our blessings, but also the positive impact we can have on the world. This responsibility is not a burden, it is an opportunity. It's the call to participate in a larger process where our actions resonate beyond ourselves, contributing to the web of love and growth that sustains all existence. The greatest secret of this story may lie in its simplicity. The coin, an apparently modest symbol, carries immense power. It reminds us that even the smallest of gifts, when used with intention and faith, can yield extraordinary results. We don't need vast wealth or exceptional talents to make a difference. What matters is the willingness to act, to take risks, and to trust that our actions, however small they may seem, have eternal value. Furthermore, the parable challenges us to confront our fears. The fear of failing, of being inadequate, of losing what we have. These fears, like the servant who buried his coin, prevent us from exploring the true potential that lies within us. The spiritual message is clear. Fear is an illusion, and faith is the key that opens the door to multiplication. Acting with courage is, in itself, an act of worship, a demonstration of trust in the divine process. Another crucial point is the power of choice. Each day, each moment offers us a decision: to use our gifts or hide them, to progress or stagnate, to multiply or waste. We are not defined by what we receive, but by what we do with what we have. The parable invites us to make conscious decisions, to live intentionally, and to recognize that time is a precious resource that should never be wasted. The beauty of this story lies in its universal appeal. Regardless of our circumstances, we are all capable of multiplying something. It could be an act of kindness, a word of encouragement, a shared skill, or even the simple effort to overcome our own limits. Each small action, when done with purpose, has the potential to trigger an impact that goes far beyond what we can imagine. But perhaps the most transformative teaching is the idea that spiritual multiplication is, above all, an internal process. It's not just about creating more in the material world, but about becoming more loving, more generous, more conscious. True growth occurs within us when we choose to align our actions with our higher essence and our divine purpose. The parable of the 10 coins is ultimately an invitation to set aside our excuses and fears, to embrace our gifts with gratitude and courage, and to actively participate in the great process of spiritual multiplication that is life itself. It is a reminder that each of us has something to offer, something that can be infinitely multiplied when put into action. As we conclude this journey, I pose a question to you. What is your currency? What talent, skill, opportunity, or experience have you been hiding or neglecting to use? And more importantly, how can you start multiplying it today for the benefit of your life, your community, and the world? Remember, the power of spiritual multiplication is in your hands. It doesn't matter where you are or what stands in your way. There's always something that can be transformed, expanded, and shared. The divine trusts in you, just as the noble trusted in the servants. Now it's up to you to decide how you will respond to this call. The parable leaves us with a simple yet profound truth. What we multiply, multiplies us. Each act of faith and courage transforms us and brings us closer to our divine essence. May we all choose to multiply not just our coins, but also the love, hope, and light we carry within us. And so, the parable becomes more than a story. It becomes a guide, a mirror, and an invitation to live with purpose and abundance. I hope you found inspiration in this journey. How about starting to multiply your currency today? And now, mind unfettered, I ask you, what is the most valuable currency you carry today? Perhaps it's a talent, an opportunity, or even a lesson learned along your journey. Write in the comments what you believe you can start to multiply today, because together, we create a space where manifestation becomes collective. Each idea shared here can inspire someone to act, and this exchange is the true spiritual multiplication. And before you set out to start taking action, let me invite you to continue this fascinating journey. The next video is already waiting for you on your screen. The Kabbalistic Secrets of Jesus. Did he know the hidden power of the 72 names? In it, we will explore the mysteries of Kabbalah, connecting spiritual power to what Jesus might have understood about the sacred names. This profound connection with the secrets of the universe is the next step on your path of discovery. Click now to watch and continue this expansion of wisdom. See you there, mind unfettered.